not like a lot of like probably police officers, I'm sure. Like him, I had kids going through school at that time, and I also coached high school football. And I was telling them, if something ever happened at school, I don't care who tells you to stay in that room. If you hear somebody shooting at the other end of your school, leave. We'll find you later. So it's all some of the things with Dallas. The main thing that the parents that I came across that have a little bit of problem with is the counter. Okay, basically the counter is a part of the Alice program that you're going to fight back. If somebody's trying to hurt you, you don't just stand there and let somebody hurt you, or if you have to throw something at somebody to get away from somebody, or whatever you need to do to protect yourself. Whatever you feel that you need to do, and that's with parents. That's the harder, I think, point to get across, especially with little kids. And we don't teach little kids to go fight somebody else. Of course, that's not going to happen. But
The first, just the alert is just giving information, letting us know there's something going on, one way or the other, whether it's through PA, or just getting the information out that there's something going on. The lockdown is traditional lockdown, which I think most of us probably did in school if we ever had that kind of thing.
Lockdown is not a bad thing. We're not saying to go away from lockdown. We're saying to enhance lockdown. What that means is when you are in lockdown formation, if you first say, you put them in a corner, barricade the door with whatever you can. It's chairs, tables, whatever. There's also little other techniques we use to kind of keep that door shut. So we're not throwing lockdown out the window and everybody run for cover. If you can't make it out the door, there's a gunman right outside here. We don't want the kids running out the door. But it's just another way of enhancing the lockdown.
Inform is providing information, whether it's through real-time information, somebody being able to watch through the cameras and give us, in a classroom setting, information as to what's going on. If there's a gunman perhaps down at the band room and I'm up in the top corner, so then I have a chance to make a decision whether we can safely get out or whether we need to go ahead and input more of the lockdown and barricading and that kind of thing.
it's just an option too. It's not like we're telling you have to. If you decide that you're in that room, you're safe, and that's what you decide. That's what you decide. And so really, the information is a big part. And then we also, when we talk to your kids, when your kids are talking about this in school, it's not just a school setting. You guys have watched the news. This happened at the malls. It happened at church. It happened everywhere. So we talk to them about their whole life, not just in a school setting. Of course, we are at school, so we practice at school and stuff.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, we're constantly looking at how to make this better, how to keep the informed component alive and well. So this year, we had a new phone system installed over the summer. And originally, the plan was that we would have zones in the buildings, and we would have one room designated as paging, where they could get on that phone. The teacher would know they could make the page and communicate to everybody. The new phone system allows the teachers to page from any phone, which wasn't something we were capable of doing or interested in doing at the time. I think it's a very good feature. So sometimes you hear about the incidents where the people in the office aren't able to communicate anymore for whatever reason. And I was worried that what if the people in those individual zones weren't there, they were out and about, and there just wasn't that accessibility. Now each teacher has the ability to take the helm and start communicating that information real time, no matter what's happening where. And I think it just increases the ability for us to keep that information flowing no matter what the circumstances are.
Can you guys do it for your radios also?
Not right now, no.
Some of the schools now, I don't know how this works, but they can actually go through the PA system on their radios.
So they can wirelessly, this is me touching buttons. No, I would like to look into that though.
Crystal, talk to Crystal.
Inform is also probably, in my mind, one of the biggest things. Because you have enough people out here yelling things and the shooters and active killers in here, it confuses that active killer. They don't know what's going on. You can tell them the cops are right around the corner, don't go around there. Most of the time, these kids that come in these schools know the school, they've gone to school here. So you're gonna know them back and forth. So yelling things at them confuses them. It helps us as law enforcement professionals coming into this school. Because our main job when we get in here is neutralizing the threat. We're not here to Not here to help anybody at the time, we're here to get that gun. So you telling us where he's at, what hallway, big help to us. We're gonna keep going right past you, if you just point, yell, whatever, so we can get to that guy or that girl and put them down, and then we can attend to the wounded. So that to me is the biggest thing here.
And do you evacuate, which I haven't talked about yet, everybody says, well, you're teaching the kids, we're probably gonna be one of, the person, if something like that happens, where you're gonna go and all that, but that would be at, a point of where we think we have everything under control, basically if you evacuate, and every school policy is different, so if I'm saying wrong, we have 9 schools that I go to, so but most of our schools, as long as your kid gets out and gets safe and gets away, we really don't care where he goes. As long as I can find you out here somewhere and say, well, I know your kid's not in the library, he's out here, he's alive somewhere, we'll find him eventually. That's our goal. So, but then in the end, there is a place where they're all told we would like them to go, so that we can, the parents will know where this point is, so they can come pick their kids up and we can do it in an orderly fashion.
Right, what Officer Burns is referring to is unique, not unique, but is in our situation is we try to get them to the high school football stadium, and we're going to bus them to the fairgrounds. And that's where we would have the parents come, because if you there's not a lot of ways.
If something was to happen here, you're not getting on school property, because we're gonna block the place off, so you're not coming in here anyways. So you're gonna have an alert now, you're gonna have something from the school, or your kids are gonna be texting you, unless there's so many kids like up in Chardon, there's so many kids using phone shut off, couldn't use phones.
But the game plan is to get them to the fairgrounds, communicate with them alert now, that's where you would report and you would pick up the kids there.
It was something that we discussed pretty extensively within the safety committee last year, trying to figure out what the best location for students to go as a central location would be. I know the suggestion is usually to some big Walmart type location, not really having too many of those out here, so that ended up being our best option.
The biggest premise of this whole program is survivability of the kids out there and the staff. If we can get them out, they got a way out. If you can hear the gunman's way on the other side of the building or other side of the complex, and we're right here, get him out the door. If he's right here, you see him here, hear him here, we block the door and lock ourselves in. So we have live kids and live staff afterwards. We don't want to minimize any risk that we have here. Fortunately, any school shootings, the way they teach us as police, are you're going to have dead people here. It's just the way it is. His department is never going to get here before it's done. So a normal school shooting is about 7 minutes long, from front to back. Most active killers do not want to face me or him because we're the ones that are going to neutralize them. They want easy targeting. And if this is here for is to try to make kids and staff hard targets so they can't get to them or they can get them out of here. Counters like the last ditch effort. He gets in here and he's shooting people. What are we going to do? I got to take a chair and wing it at him, take a pencil and throw it at him. Whatever it is, we got 30 kids in here and they're throwing all kinds of objects. He can't aim and shoot. He's going to be ducking his head, moving. And hopefully by that time, we're either here, they can disorient them enough to get people out or dive on top of them and keep them down until we do get here. The biggest premise is survivability here. And that's what we got to think about, and that's what the community's got to start thinking about. And that's kind of a hard thing that we as law enforcement getting out to be survivability.
It gives us options. It gives us additional tools as staff, as students, and I know when I've discussed it with students, they feel, like high school, they feel pretty good about having some control over what might happen.
And it's too bad that, we have to practice stuff like this and talk to kids about it, but, it's happening, so you have to. First and second, third graders right now, by the time they're in high school, junior high, this is gonna be a normal thing for them. It's like a fire drill, tornado drill, that's just the way it's gonna be.
And to build on that, I started talking with our, with the First County Sheriff's Department to see about doing a more realistic drill this fall. I had some mixed responses when we were talking with the administrative team last year about this, if this is something we want to do and to what extent. But I think we're going to have, try to do some form of a more realistic drill, because I think it's important for the kids to at least be in a controlled simulation. We're not talking about, scaring kindergartners where they're not ready to come back to school and scare, but a little something a little bit more realistic.
How often do we drill? I know growing up, we had monthly fire drills or tornado drills, but other than the initiation of schools, how often is Alice approach to the students?
I think right now you're doing it twice, right? But there's a Senate bill, or it might even be to the House right now, or whichever one back and forth, where they're talking about how many times that they're gonna make you do it, the same as a fire drill, once a month or whatever it's gonna be. They haven't really decided the law, but I think right now you have to do 2 a year.
But we're not doing simulation, we're just doing lockdown.
Lockdowns.
And that's where I think that we can improve upon, where if we increase,
They're more second nature.
yeah, so that they know how to respond.
Just a suggestion is come from Streetsboro, it's totally different, but we're doing like alert 1 month, lockdown 1 month, so forth and so on, and then repeating. And then hopefully we're gonna try to do the same thing. They're just talking about a full scale type scenario thing. It's probably gonna be next year before we do that. It might be something to think about, just a little bit at a time, get through it, and just repeating.
A couple of our schools in the county have already done it, and what basically the kind of way they set it up is they kind of set up a scenario where the whole school, because we didn't have the information during lockdown. Then you started at one end of the building and gave information that would allow this end over here to evacuate. And then they just kept giving more information, so eventually the whole school evacuated.
So I think that goes in line with what Andy was saying, is we can do portions of this system to try to just highlight different things, to just practice what they may be experiencing in their life.
Because they don't have to be followed in order. Does anybody have any other questions about the Alice?
Are, like in this building in particular, are people able to get out the windows of this building?
If this was for real, yeah, I mean, during the drill, we talked to, we bring them all to the gym first, or that's how we done it at the other schools, I don't know how we're gonna do it here, but we talk to the kids and say, for the purpose of this drill, you're on the first floor, and that's your closest way, but we don't want you jumping out the window for today's purposes, or whatever, which, then that doesn't make it as real as you could, but there again, you don't want your kids jumping out the windows.
If this is a real deal and you couldn't open this window, that chair would be going through.
Talk to them
Yeah,
about
but
how
like
regular-
kindergartners,
Sure. Sometimes they might be just better off locking the room and
Yeah.
barricading the door and
Mhm.
just wait for reinforcements to get in. That might be your best option. I mean, that's not saying you beat everybody out, but if you have that opportunity, that's what we kind of preach is if you can get out, get out.
And like in Virginia Tech thing happened, the kid that jumped out the second floor, a couple of them broke their ankle, broke their leg, whatever, the rest of them are dead,
Right.
so.
To add on to that, it's kind of a horrific image, but Virginia Tech, they had tables like this set up. The guy came in and shot him in the head right down the row, and they were sitting here like this when the cops showed up. Hit in the head, and he just sat there and died. And that's what we want to get away from that mindset, just wait for us to get there.
Right.
We're not going to get there in time.
He knew how all the schools across the country have been trained. You go there, you hide under the table, you hide in the corner, whatever. That guy actually, 2 or 3 weeks prior to going to Virginia Tech, went to a range and rented an indoor range. And he had the people take the target, how you shoot a target hanging down there? Well, he had him set him on the floor. And he was walking down the range, just popping his targets. Because he knew what he was going to do.
To add to your question a little bit more, all of the windows do open in the classrooms, and they would be able to go out. Our secretary debated if I could fit out one. I've since lost some.
Say, we're also, Montgomery and I have also talked about looking at each individual room and some of the escape possibilities and for every individual room. Because before we started with the safety committee, actually working with Allison, I actually, using some of the information I've gotten from my husband on that and from the Alice training, went through pretty much the whole building to look at the various escape routes and options that we have. So we'll be able to take it up another step this year.
And there's going to be certain things, I'm sure, at each school that, their staff's going to know, the police department that's involved with them, that they're not going to share with the parents or with the kids, whatever it might be. Each school's different, each school's unique to the way that they're set up and the way things have to be done. Every school's not doing everything exactly the same way, so they will keep you, the parents, informed as much as possible, the kids as much as possible, too.
We were talking last week, Terry and I were talking about maybe ladders, fire ladders for the second floor of the high school, maybe looking at how you get up on the roof. So there's, I guess the thing that we want to impress upon you is that the dialogue is still alive and well, and we're looking for ways to make sure that we're doing the best of our ability
Safety,
in protecting.
safety plan is kind of a fluid document, the additions and
And that's every school right now, because it's all new to everybody, so it's all schools around the areas. You know, you guys are maybe a little further ahead than some, probably not numbers, but you're pretty much on track, we should be probably.
Do our phone systems work if our power's out? So if I just go to worst case scenario,
Probably not.
all hell's broken loose, we have no power, what's then that plan? That shooter's coming in the front door, I don't care if it's here or there.
And that's why we let kids have cell phones.
So-
We use them.
Right, then we would cell phone, I mean,
Remember the cell phones and the walkie-talkies that
Okay.
we have.
Yeah.
So
So we have two other layers of communication.
the walkie-talkie, not, but does everyone have a walkie-talkie
Well, there are probably 20 district-wide.
district-wide? Okay, so
I'm
somehow.
guessing 20. I don't know, half of them right now are getting service tomorrow, just to make sure they're all working properly. So I would say about 20, and they're in the different offices throughout the district, and we could divide them up as something that's wrong.
All right,
Say
just-
grab a walk and go. And then I would say the third layer then would be, I guess maybe even in tandem with the walkie would be the cell phone.
The cell phone sign.
Now, when Officer Burns said that, well, you know what he said about the cell phones are shutting down? So there is
Because
some
there's so
element
much,
there.
yeah.
And we, there was, I don't know, I read somewhere about a police radio that maybe we could have. There was some kind of communication device that was different from a cell phone and a regular phone line that you can communicate with the car. I can't remember what it is. I thought it was, you could have it in the school, the radio.
I'm sure the sheriff would give you anything we had, but,
Do we have a generator here at school? We do have a generator.
Most of, what I checked on the generators from the schools is most of you guys' wires are you're wired to just certain lights and
Just for
certain.
Emergency.
So I don't know if the phone is hooked into that.
I
or
can
not.
tell you, if
That's
the
what
power goes out here, you have an active shooter, you're not gonna have time to think about that. You're gonna wanna take care of what you got here, and get out of the building. Knowing that if you call the sheriff's department, you got probably, I don't know, a couple hundred phone calls, their dispatch center gonna be inundated. So you're gonna have to worry about yourself and your kids at that time.
Right.
And that's
if you-
why we
if
have the
you're-
other
If
option.
you're texting the other teachers, he's down in room 203 or whatever, that's fine, that's great to communicate inside the building. But if you're trying to get out to his department, it might not happen. So you're gonna have to worry about yourself, and if the power's out, the power's out. You're just gonna have to go with it. You're not gonna have time to worry about that because somebody coming in the room. You're gonna have to worry about not dying.
But it's a valid question.
Yeah, that was just my question. What does this building
I
look
think we
like
have different layers.
once
would
that power
protect
goes
us.
out? And don't tell me it's dark. But once the power goes out, we're all dependent upon that technology, and we've installed great systems, and we've got zones, and we've got this system that I can pick up any phone and alert another area. But
I would say walkie-talkies and cell phones are the next two layers. And I don't have a direct answer for whether or not the phone system still works or if it's connected to the generator, but I will find out about you.
Probably the next layer after that is the teacher.
Right.
Or the kid who steps up because maybe a teacher freaks out. Who knows?
Right.
That's
That
what,
plan B, that
maybe
plan C.
somebody comes into the office first and you ain't gonna use your intercom, you don't have your cameras, but that's where bad thing happens at. So the final stage is yourself.
Do we have a safety plan submitted with the sheriff's department?
Yeah, all the schools do, they're all being updated because they're all changing.
It has building schematics and
Yeah.
and resources as to what's in the building and where.
All the schools that, when it all came about, the House Bill 422, is what it was called, you had to do that, or the principal got fined $100 or something. So everybody turned in.
For it.
We have a law at the sheriff's office, and most schools now are actually putting them online, as they're being updated, and the sheriff or somebody at the sheriff's office has access to your guys' computers, and, they can get the new stuff. But I believe your guys, I don't believe you guys will know anything since turn your stuff into us. And you guys also had sent a copy to the state down in Columbus too. You guys had to send a copy down there. As far as your safety plan, I believe they're updating it right now. Just like, I don't think any school, not everybody right now is updating their safety plans, because it's been 10, 12 years, so everybody's doing their stuff.
And our safety plan is current with the new system in place. The only thing that we don't have is schematics online, which is not a bad idea, which I'm sure that we could do with relatively easy to get access to that.
Something I've been talking to other superintendents about too, is, and I know everybody in the county cannot have the same safety plan, the same everything, because every school is different, everything's different. But if something was to happen at this school, you're going to have 3 schools, or Rain State, so everybody. So as much as we can keep it similar between Richtown, Garrettsville, Southeast, Waterloo, everybody, if the superintendents can try to, so that, Garrettsville cop kind of knows kind of what they do in Garrettsville, so that probably maybe going to be similar if they come to Waterloo to help.
I think that's the beauty of it,
Right.
because the more districts that move to this system, there is some sense of uniformity where that's concerned. Any other questions for this first section?
With the, not getting too deep, but if the stadium's the main route where everybody goes, if somebody was very smart, what would keep them from having a countermeasure from, the stadium?
Right.
Everybody gets there. I mean, I know you can keep rolling into this, but, 2 or 3 years down the road, somebody,
And you're exactly right, and there's going to be no, any scenario that you come up with, I can come up with something that's not going to work. And like I said, that's going to be a point where, maybe they're shooting at the other end. More than likely, a teacher and kids aren't going to run over the football field. They're going to run over to the cornfield, and they're going to be over there till somebody comes and gets them. So that's part of the discussions too that the teachers have, and when you go through your training, don't put yourself in danger to get to this spot. And like we say, and with teachers, their accountability for their kids, that's, they're all taught that. That's their main thing. You better know where that kid's at and they're responsible for them. Something like this happens, and you tell your kids to go run to that cornfield and you stay there. I don't care. You just go over there. That's going to be hard for a teacher to do because that's going against everything they've been taught. But that's just there again. That's part of the Alice where that's your option. And we're telling you that this is going to be if it's a safe place for you to go. And I'm sure that if we didn't have the shooter or didn't have the suspect or whatever, I don't think that there would be that many kids over there because it's just going to be chaos. There's going to be people everywhere. We might start taking them back there after, the situation's under control or the threats have been neutralized at the school. Then we can start maybe gathering kids, getting over there. But I don't believe you're going to have the whole high school running to the football field. If something's going on back there in that end of the building, people are going to run that way.
And that's part of our training as a staff.
Would you want to move on to the next?
Sure. I'm a little better known perhaps. So, kind of went with the response to something dealing with a tragedy that I would hope would never happen. I just have to throw this in a little bit. We do have, I don't know if anybody's heard of the crisis intervention team in the county at all. No. Real quick synopsis of it is originally a training for police officers. It's a 40-hour overview for police officers, training them in mental health awareness, understanding, and de-escalation in working with people that have either mental illness or just a mental health issue on any given day. This one actually went through it several years ago and made such a difference that when he brought home the resources, I realized that I was almost embarrassed that I had been teaching for so long and didn't realize we had those kind of resources. So we actually created the education collaboration, which is based off of the police officers training. And it is a 40-hour mental health, illness awareness training, de-escalation, collaboration with community agencies, Coleman, Town Hall 2, Mental Health Recovery Board actually sponsors it, oversees it. We're volunteered to put this on every year. We've had it for 6 years. It is the first nationally And we have approximately 20 school staff members in Waterloo who have gone through the training itself, including bus drivers. We offer to a variety of, we want all staff to have some of that kind of training. In addition to that, we've also, Andy has come in and helped, we've done some 4-hour training for bus drivers. We've done a little more informal, not everyone can take that 40-hour course in the summer, informal training on mental health awareness, which I've been teaching for 19 years, and I can say that by working with staff and having them more aware of just some of the situations you might see, things to look for, we've been able to perhaps get somebody some help that may have needed it that I wouldn't have been able to, or I would have known before. So looking at kind of a prevention side, we do have many staff members that have been trained in this as well. So hopefully we continue educating everyone that we won't have to worry about dealing with the Alice concepts in real-time reality situation.
Is that something any community member could go through?
Anybody can come through it. It's,
Okay.
we only do it, at this point, we're doing it once a year. It is, like I said, sponsored by the Mental Health Recovery Board of Portage County. It has been held at the Streetsboro Police Department because they've been gracious enough to donate space. I'm not sure whether it's going to be June or July next year. It's been July the past several years, but people have asked, could you move it, so you may have that. But we encourage, because anybody has a chance to touch a child's life, and to be able to have those resources to offer, a lot of the time, the bus driver, the bus aide, the cafeteria personnel, they're the ones who actually will see a child and maybe not threatening, but because I give a grade, that student isn't going to talk to me about a certain situation, but they may talk to anybody. So anybody has a chance to touch a child's life. So I encourage anybody that's interested in to take the class.
Should we follow the Mental Health Recovery Board site, or is there a specific website we should follow to see when that's scheduled?
I can actually put it on mine here, but the Mental Health Recovery Board does have it on there. And if you want to get me name information, as soon as we come up with it, we usually set the date about January.
Okay.
So we are lucky that we do have quite a few staff trained in that also.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So, this is a nice segue into the next segment, which is literally our, I think that when you hear about the news reports about these terrible incidents, more often than not you hear about bullying, you hear about mental health, you hear about young people who are just struggling overall. So Mrs. Shaver and Ms. Early are going to talk a little bit about our bullying policies, what we have in place in terms of mental health stability programs that are available, and just how we're trying to help protect and ensure that we are not subject to any of these incidents. Do you want this?
Yes.
Okay. I will reflect for you.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm going to apologize ahead of time if my voice goes out. For the first time in 20 years, I've caught the back to school crud that I cannot shake, so if my voice gets weird, just ignore me. Just a few things I want to share with you tonight, and you jump in anytime you would like to.
Hello, I'm Ms. Early.
And I'm K-8 for the guidance counselor, maybe elementary and middle. We do have a bullying policy, like all schools do. It's in our handbook. This is just the basic definition of what we consider bullying. And that's kind of where we get stuck sometimes. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but bullying is a big word in the media now. You hear it everywhere, and it does happen, it does. But for it to be bullying, it has to be repeated and it has to be intentional. Those two things have to be in place. And you all know kids sometimes, they're just mean. A one-shot mean. And that doesn't mean we're not going to deal with it, we do, but it doesn't fall under the bullying policy. It's a whole different thing. So we try to get kids, I go into every classroom, K through 8, I go in October when it's Bully Prevention Month, and we talk about what the definition of bullying is. We talk about, thank you.
My ADD was kicking it out, sorry.
The different types of things you'll see with bullying, all the things that we're aware of, name calling, taunts, threats. Mostly here at Waterloo, I've been in the counseling position now for 8 years, yes. And And I think I can count maybe 3 physical things that have happened in those 8 years that were, and those weren't really bullying, those were like one-time fights. Most of what we get is the name calling, the teasing, the insulting, the put downs that happen on a repeated basis. I'll come back to that in a minute, the communication stuff. That's the big thing, kids and parents understand. For it to be bullying, it has to be repeated and it has to be intentional. Okay. We talk about the 3 types when I go in. We have the physical bullying, emotional, and social. And the emotional and social tie together a lot. Sometimes it's purposely excluding someone because they're not cool enough to be in your group, or leaving them out at lunch. They can't sit at your table. Things like that. We do see some of that. Cyberbullying. Technology is the bane of my existence. Because when you and I were in school, bullying happened, it did. But when you got on the bus and went home, it was over. They can't get away from it now. They all have cell phones, they all have Facebook accounts, they all have Twitters and Instagrams and Snapchats and things I don't even know about yet. And it never stops. And I bet, probably once October got here last year, I had kids in my office 3 or 4 times a week complaining about what so-and-so said about them on Facebook the night before, what so-and-so texted them the night before. And that's kind of a gray area for us because it happens outside of school hours, off school property. Is there really much we can do about it? Well, if it carries over into school and it's impeding the educational process here the next day, then yes, we can get involved. I'd rather not have to mess with that, but we do. And one thing I can say about the kids is if you have middle school kids and they have a cell phone, I don't care what they say to you about their privacy, it's not their phone. Unless they're paying for it, which I'm willing to bet they're not, it's your phone. Check it. Take it from them. Well, my kids didn't get cell phones until they were 16 because they were tortured and had a horrible life. But at 9 o'clock or whenever they went to bed, that phone stays downstairs. That phone does not go to your room with you because I do not want you texting at 3 in the morning. And that's all good stuff, I think. They'll be mad at you and they'll hate you, but it goes over. It'll be fine. Okay. That's just a little bit of information, some text or some statistics on. You'd be surprised how many kids have posted things that you would die if you saw. Kids that you wouldn't think would be posting that kind of stuff. It's happening. Okay. These are the 5 strategies we talk about. The kids here at Waterloo have heard these strategies since kindergarten. You could grab a 2nd grader, you could grab a freshman, and ask them what the 5 strategies are, and they'll